Welcome to the FTI podcast. This week, we are joined by the founder of the Buckeye Outlaw Sprint Series and current owner of the Fast on Dirt Series. Welcome, Aaron Fry. Aaron, welcome. I know we tried last week and had some technical difficulties, but we got those figured out, and here we are today, having you back on. I know last week was a little rough, but I think Dan worked with you last week and this week to get all those things worked out, and we're ready to talk some racing.
Maybe. Are you muted, Aaron?
Yes.
There he goes. There he is.
There he is.
I'm here.
How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing well. I think you're weak over there. I'm not sure why that is.
Having flashbacks, guys.
I know, me too.
There we go. The intro music finally quit on my end.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, that might have been making it.
oh wow.
That might have been lagging it from just that.
Oh wow. I hope it's not a 2-minute delay the whole thing.
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, that was a long intro there. Well, Aaron, I guess we'll just jump into here. We'll just try to get throw some questions at you here, get everybody some info on you, and see how it goes. I guess one of the first things I was interested in, we all know and hear about what you're doing now. How was it in the past? I know your Facebook profile picture is a race car, which obviously it's you in it. What kind of racing experience do you have in the past? What made you kind of stop and kind of venture into the promoter deal, and kind of how's that whole path in your racing career kind of unfolded?
Well, from the beginning, my parents went to the races just strictly as race fans. And at a pretty young age, I was determined I was going to be a race car driver when I grew up. Probably the only kid in my kindergarten class who said what they were going to be when they grew up. I specifically remember this happening in my kindergarten class. And kids said, things that just weren't possible, like astronaut, that kind of thing, maybe a firefighter or something.
President, all those little things.
Fast, it was about 14 or 12 years old, I was racing go-karts. What's that?
I said president, astronaut, all those types of things everyone always says they want to be when they're younger.
Yeah. Yeah, and I them became what they said they would. And I never got to race for a living. That wasn't my occupation. But I definitely did grow up doing that. I started in go-karts when I was 14 years old. One of my old wing panels back there. I was in my own stuff. But anyway, at age 24, 1999 was my first year in a 305 wing sprint car. I bought a complete race-ready car trailer and jumped straight from go-kart racing into 305 sprint cars, making the drive from Ironton, Ohio, if you know where that is, on the Ohio River, all the way to Attica to run Friday night, camp out in the trailer or whatever, get a hotel room, Fremont, or Columbus Motor Speedway. We ran 305 sprints on the pavement back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And then in 2003, got my first 410 motor. My first ever 410 race, Opar Million, Eldora. So the 100 qualifiers, and I think I qualified about 135th and my first time. So it was a little apprehensive those first few laps on the racetrack at Eldora. But In 2011, we started the Boss Series, and I continued to race on the off weekends through 2017. A pretty bad crash at Lawrenceburg Speed, September 15th, I think it was, of 2017. And it didn't scare me out of racing, but the irony, if you notice the Fast Series, I started doing missions with the Boss name in 2018. So those free weekends I had every other weekend with Boss all of a sudden disappeared. With the Wing Series and the non-Wing Series, it leaves no time left for me to do any racing. I miss it terribly. I may get in a 305 a few times this year. There's some old memories, but I haven't sprint car.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know how much it was. That's why I was kind of curious. I think all of us have seen the Facebook profile picture, and not a lot of us ever known the true story. So, did you, after you quit racing, how soon after that did you start doing the promoting the Boss stuff, the fast stuff? When did all that kind of start really unfolding and kick off to what it is today?
Oh no, I was still racing myself when Boss started in 2011. So for about 6 years there, I was doing both. I was still racing on the off weekends. I didn't compete in my own events. I've just never been a believer in that. You can't properly run a show seat. So I didn't even enter my car in the race with another driver because I didn't want any conflict of interest. But from 2011 to 2017, I was promoting the Boss Series and still racing myself, both wing and non-wing, all on dirt at that point. I had given up the pavement years ago. And then in 2018, I quit driving, and that's when I started doing wing stuff. At first under the Fast name, or under the Boss name. If any race fans out there remember, a handful of events in 2018 that were wing races under the Boss. What happened is at the end of 18, Rich Farmer was giving up Fremont Speedway and the Fast Series and called and said, hey, you need a name besides Boss to go on your wing stuff. And he gave me the name Fast on Dirt.
Interesting. And so since I've started racing the last 4 years, the Fast Series has always been like, and it always seemed like almost like the regional series, the next step up out of locals, but not a big traveling thing where you could do a lot of racing and not be too far from home. How have you been in making schedules and doing everything with that to kind of keep that in mind? Because I know a lot of guys like your series due to the some travel, and you also pay very well on all your races.
My goal in doing this was to keep it affordable and the travel economical enough for a guy who has a job or maybe owns a business to be able to go racing with us. Part of why the Speed Week this year will not count toward the 2024 overall Fast Championship. I want the guys to be able to get off work on a Friday, maybe take a few Fridays off, vacation days. We have just a handful of Friday and Sunday events. The majority of them are Saturday nights. I try to keep it within a 200-mile radius of Columbia. There's a couple of them that get just a little farther out than that. But if you'll notice, our schedule concentrates in Ohio, and we hit the edge of Pennsylvania, Indiana, even West. Next year, definitely going back up into Michigan. We've been up there a few times in the past. So we try to keep it where the travel, for a guy who's pretty centrally located, 3 hours or less for them.
Yeah, and I know as a racer, I know obviously drive time, and the payout makes a big difference of how many, guys are going to come to your race. I went to a couple of races last year, whether I was racing or not, or helping Ricky. And, even down in, we were at Muskegum that one time and still bringing good car counts. So how's it feel to know that I think a lot of series promoters are worried about not bringing in the crowd or the track they're going to. Maybe the owners are worried about them not bringing a crowd. How is it, when you're always able to fill those fields and always put on a good show, because I feel like there hasn't been many. It doesn't seem like you have the shows where there's 13 cars, 12 cars show up. So kind of how's that feel between the drivers supporting you so much and what you're giving back to the drivers to keep them doing that?
It's really nice to have the support we have. There's so many teams that want to race with us more. There again, it goes back to economics and traffic. I have to be very careful what we schedule. Since our next fast race is April the 27th at Muskingum, ironically. But we made sure Atomic Speedway is not running wing sprint cars that night. I think we'll have Wayne and Fremont running Kingdom. If Atomic running, we would struggle for cars. So we try to be smart about how we schedule to make sure we have full fields. I believe the lowest car count we ever had was 16 cars, and ironically, but that was in August when a lot of equipment was tore up. We had 4 drivers that night walking the pit area who just didn't have cars. But yeah, typically, I believe 28 is what we had last year. We started tough track to get a big field had 30 cars, and there was 5 or 6 who wanted to be there who just didn't have motors back yet or just weren't quite ready. 2 of our full-time teams this year were in that they just didn't have motors ready in time for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and that season delay always kind of depends on the driver and when they get their stuff going. But yeah, it's pretty impressive that that's your lowest car count ever out of some of that stuff. Because I would almost venture to say the lower car counts are when it's a series or a promoter coming to a track rather than a normal local night. So that's cool to see that you're able to kind of keep going with it. And obviously it's been a pretty good deal for you. I know a bigger thing. I'll just get into it now, I guess, because it'll be a good conversation. Who knows how long we'll talk about it. So we talked to Flory and all the other racers the last couple months. We talked about High Limit. We talked about World of Outlaws. We talked about the All-Stars being absorbed by them. Flory talked about some of the meetings everybody had and got together, with other track owners and other series promoters. I believe he mentioned everybody wanting you to kind of take everything over and kind of wanted you to step up. But kind of let us know how that played out, kind of roll into Speed Week, how that kind of went on. And then obviously I'll have a couple more questions about Speed Week because everybody's pretty still pumped about that, it seems like. So whatever you can throw in on that would be awesome.
Well, I'd like to start off by saying this, that I'm going to miss the All-Stars as much or more than anyone. As a kid growing up, we lived in Ironton, Ohio, which is an hour and a half now, which was the nearest sprint car track, Atomic Speedway, KC Raceway, back in the days I was growing up. Our big event we went to was Sprint Speed Week, mostly at Atomic. We went to a few other shows. The All-Stars was a big deal to us. We didn't go to World of Outlaw race. Very rarely did we. The All-Stars were kind of it for us. So to see that tradition come to an end broke my heart in a lot of ways. My aspiration with all along, though, had been to become what Bert and Bridget Emick built back in the day. Long before Tony Stewart, long before Guy Webb, Bert and Bridget Emick had a series for regional racers that's focused in Ohio, states around Ohio, which is exactly what I do with Fast. That's what Bert and Bridget did for many, many years. So that was goal, was to be old school All-Stars, but wasn't trying to take that name or anything or even fill that role. When High Limit bought them and absorbed them, I did not reach out to them. I feel very honored that they chose me. Several promoters, clubs contacted Kyle asking for Speed Week. And if you remember the old Heinz 57 ketchup commercials, good things come to those who wait. I didn't call, I asked. We just minded our own business. I was fortunate in that Kendra Jacobs got hired to work for High Limit. That is Kenny Jacobs' daughter. That is Lee's sister, Trey's cousin. Trey and Lee both have raced with me pretty often. Even Dean. Dean's won some fast races. So she knew very well what I do with the fast series and what we were capable of. So thankfully, Kendra mentioned races through the years. Actually has to his credit as well. So they knew me. They knew what I do. And I was honored. The phone rang one day, and it was Brad Sweet. And it kind of shocked me in a way, but they said they had already made their mind up that if I was willing to take it, it was ours to run with. There's no financial involvement from High Limit. I mean, it basically, they granted us the right to use the name for this year, and then we will reevaluate after this year. I hope we can continue it. But the market and economics, I've learned a lot about past speed weeks that we don't see as even drivers. I raced in quite a few speed week shows through the years. But whatever, you don't see the inner workings of speed week. I've seen that now, and coming, not but for it to consist, events are going to pay much better than others. You know, when you're running a Friday or a Saturday night, you're going to have a live crowd there in person at the racetrack. And the racetracks that run Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, they're going to struggle a little bit. So we basically laid it out to where there's a minimum purse for speed week that tracks have to meet, required. But the Saturday racetracks, we're anchoring the 2 Saturdays with 10,000 to win shows.
Yeah, I kind of followed all that when we posted the schedule, kind of seeing how that is. One thing that kind of Flory mentioned, that week of Speed Week, depending where High Limit's at and stuff, do you think that we will still see a lot of those normal all-star drivers that used to be in the Speed Week stuff that may not be running the full-time High Limit deal or World of Outlaws stuff? Do you still, obviously, you plan to draw as many cars as you can, but do you think a lot of those guys are still going to come, or is that a concern at all for you, or are you just, happy to feed the local Ohio PA guys if possible?
I mean, we'd be more than happy to have them, but let's lay out a few things for everybody. The World of Outlaws obviously are under contract. They're not allowed to come run our races. That's just the way the World of Outlaws operate. I understand that to an extent. To have the name Outlaw in your organization and restrict your drivers is a little puzzling to me, but that's my personal preference. And the High Limit Series races during our speed week, I believe, on a Wednesday night. I forget what state, but it's so neither organization is encouraging their driver to be a part of this. We are hearing from some drivers. I had my first entry from Australia, and I don't keep up with the Australian scene in the wintertime like I probably should. I don't even remember the driver's name, but he let me know there'll be a few Australian teams making the trip over.
That's always pretty cool. I mean, I always loved when I was younger watching racing. I always loved the Aussie guys coming over. That's because it was something different and someone else to see. So, yeah, I kind of think it'd be the same deal. I think you might not have as big of superstar players show up, but I don't think it's going to take away from any of the racing at all for the whole week.
By June we might have some of those those High Limit teams dropping off, and we could have a lot of them coming through. Those guys that maybe aren't seeing those charters in their future, just say, hey, I'll go race for money in Ohio that week.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I want to ask is, so, they reached out to you, to kind of run it and do whatever with it. Did it seem weird to you that they were all scheduled on that same week? I mean, to me, I guess if he was kind of reaching out to you, hoping you'd take it over, I figured they'd almost free up their drivers to kind of help you, because a lot of them might go back home or whatever between the traveling. I was kind of curious on that.
if they really wanted their drivers to be a part of Speed Week, I believe they would have just kept Speed Week in their own organization. It just isn't possible, though, to saturate the market with, even if you cut Speed Week back 6 races in 7 nights with a night off, sometimes it was a rain day. But even if you cut 6 races, the minimum purse for a high limit race, the ticket price, for what it would cost racetracks, it's just not feasible to race fans to promote that many consecutive nights in the same market. So, like I said, if they were drivers in it, they would have kept it in their arsenal. It just doesn't fit their business model. It does business model. We're going to pay a better purse than what we do for our standard show. The racers here in and around Ohio are going to have a chance to run for some pretty good money for 9 consecutive nights. And by the way, I want to throw this out there. We took Speed to 9 nights at 9 different racetracks. That does not include Eldora Speedway. I know they've run Speed Week across 9 nights before, but they always had a night off in the middle. A lot of County would run 2 events during the week. This is definitely the only time that there's been 9 different racetracks in 9 consecutive nights. And like I said, we were able to accomplish this. I think we could have stretched it to 11 nights. I had 2 other racetracks ready to step in and fill dates if we needed them to. And we were able to put together what I feel is the 9, that make the most sense. There's 2 other tracks that definitely would like to have had in there. And then there's 2 more, Eldora and Portsmouth Raceway. Portsmouth anchored the end of the for several years, and they're also not on the schedule. So if we'd got Eldora, Portsmouth, and the other 2 tracks that I had on the back burner, I think we could have called it Speed Weeks with on the end of at least 13 straight nights if we really wanted to. So we had everybody on board. I was very proud of that. Everybody wanted to be in the deal, but we made a deal where a track can make money again at Speed Week. It's told by many, almost every promoter, the last few Speed Week races, the last few money. And what's important about this year, we're getting the tracks back to where they can make money. Attica, Fremont, Millstream, and Atomic, but those are your 2 Friday and your 2 Saturday shows that are the best live crowds. Through the week, the payout's going to be $5,000 to win, $500 to start. A few of them are beefing up the middle. Still, we're waiting to get all that resolved. We're looking at better money on Friday and Saturdays, like what economically makes sense, not just for the race teams, but for the track promoters, even for the race fans. We've got to do what makes the most sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of thinking and planning that goes on to it that, I'm sure everybody and all the racers like me want to bitch and complain about, but there's so much that goes on in the background. So it's pretty cool to kind of hear what goes on, in the background. For this year, what's the biggest thing you're looking forward to within your series? I mean, for me, I know what your series is about and the caliber of racing it is weekly, but I'm pretty excited about the Speed Week deal. Just to kind of, and I look forward to being part of it. Hopefully it kind of puts a foot in everybody's mouth and, kind of settles some uneasy feelings about what happened to Ohio Speed Week. But that's me. Is that something big you're looking forward to, or some of the new tracks that got reopened this year, or what's got you excited for 2024?
Oh, yeah. I have to say the Speed Week is the focal point. Seems really won't affect the season-long chip for our teams, but obviously it puts us on a big stage, a big spotlight. So we want to make sure we do, put forth our very best with that deal. Outside of Speed Week, though, we got to look forward to get back over to Pennsboro, West Virginia. I grew up going there as a kid. When I said we went to Atomic Speedway as our home track called Southern Ohio Raceway, it's been closed now for several years. Those were my 2 tracks I grew up going to the most. But our annual events, Eldora and driving to Pennsboro, Illinois 100. And so growing up, sitting on that hillside as a kid, For a kid, it was great. You can roll down the hillside. You can be, a typical kid. But it was
playing
a
football,
neat event to
playing
go
tackle
to.
ball.
And now, yes. Now, all these years later, my goodness, I haven't seen a race there myself probably since the early 80s. And that means I would have been about 10 years old, maybe at the most. I did get a drive. I have a collection of vintage race cars. I did get to take a midget that won a race there in 1947 and made laps there back in 2019, I believe it was. And so I got to make some laps on that racetrack. It is a big racetrack, very oddly shaped. It's kind of egg shaped. One end is very wide and sweeping, and the other end is very pointed because the racetrack crosses a creek at both ends of the racetrack. A creek runs through the middle of the infield. So going through turn 1 and 2, you cross a bridge, and entering turn 3, you cross a bridge. So a very, very unique facility that has a ton of history behind it. It began running what we call big cars, which evolved into sprint cars, as far back as the 1920s. I'm not sure. I'm doing some research now trying to figure out back exactly how far the racing goes there. But we know it ran sprints in the 1920s because I found the obituary of a couple of drivers who were killed there on that racetrack in the 20s. The people who have it now, I don't think they even know for sure how far back auto racing goes on that facility.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
We have it pulled up here. That is definitely one of the most interesting looking dirt tracks I've seen.
Yeah, that was on Dale Jr.'s Lost
Yeah, you can see the creek running through it. Yeah, you can see the creek running through it there, and that's a go-kart track, mini wedge track there on the backside. You can see the bleachers across the racetrack from the go-kart track. They've started moving those bleachers already over here to the hillside. They're terracing the hillside so they can put bleachers up on that. But yeah, really, really neat racetrack. There's a big camping area there across the road. It's not far off Route 50, so it's pretty good highway getting to the facility. It's just a shame that for many, many years it sat idle. Some controversy went on there. Someone on the fair board somehow got the property into their own personal name, and for about 20 years there wasn't even a fair. There was nothing. It was like it had become privately owned. It wound up in court. A judge awarded the racetrack with the fairgrounds back to the residents of Ritchie County. They started a drive trying to get the racetrack reopened. It was going to be tough sledding. I mean, we're talking in an area that doesn't have a lot of money, but thankfully Barry Braun, who rebuilt North Wilkesboro for the Cup guys, knew the history or heard about the history of the place and came in, and Barry is leading the charge. I'm glad he is, because he's the kind of guy that can get stuff done. They had some major flooding there last week. I probably saw the pictures of that. It's pretty incredible, the amount of flooding. Thankfully, it didn't hurt a whole lot. They're getting back on schedule now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I saw that they have at least, I think, 5 races scheduled for this year, which is pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
we're there
cool.
July the 5th and 6th. We're there July the 5th and 6th, and it's not just series. My boss, non-wing sprint cars, got to give those guys a shout out. It seems like all the news, all anybody wants me to talk about now is fast and the wings in Ohio Sprint Speed Week. It all started for me with the boss with the non-wing guys in 2011. And Justin Grant, by the way, won our race, and the irony led to Atomic Speedway this Saturday. But my boss guys will be joining us with fast. So sprint car people, I know sometimes complain about support classes, whatever. Last I checked, it is just boss and fast at this race, July 5th and 6th. So sprint car heaven.
Kyle's first dirt race was boss.
Yeah.
Last year.
My first, well, I had been to a few small ones, but yeah, my first time seeing sprint cars was one of your guys' races. So that was pretty cool.
Boss at Wayne.
Which one was it? What track?
Wayne County.
Wayne County.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Oh, you saw a fantastic finish. Ricky
that
Lewis
race
is
was
about as
badass.
aggressive as anybody on the racetrack, and Carmen Perigo is twice his age, more than twice his age, and Carmen is checked out leading it. Ricky gets to him on the last lap and ran him to the fence. And if I think a sprint car's roughly 6 feet wide, Ricky left his foot 1 inch between himself and the wall. And Carmen Perigo proved he had a bet and hammered down right on around the outside and won that race. One of the best finishes of the year last year.
Dang.
Yeah, Ricky Lewis. Ricky Lewis is probably one of the few guys that I know that do non-wing stuff, and he's always seems like he's always exciting to watch. I watched him at Waynesfield a couple times and other stuff, and he's definitely a wheel man. I remember him doing that at Wayne County, so it was pretty cool to see. I think the wingless stuff is pretty wild for Wayne County, and it really does put on some pretty exciting racing.
So we have a question from our audience.
There,
Jared
I
wants to
believe it is
know.
May the 4th.
Jared wants to know, for the Fast Series Speed Week, are you guys going to try to live up to all the all-star expectations, or are you going to try to make it your own?
I'm going to try to live up to the Burt Emick All-Star expectations. The All-Star Speed Week began with Burt promoting the All-Stars. The racetracks came together. The racetracks helped form the deal. And we're going to bring back some of the old school stuff. If you remember, the drivers who would run the dash would autograph Frisbees and toss into the crowd. We're planning to bring back some old school Speed Week traditions. As far as living up to the current, like last year's All-Stars, I don't know, other than the names they would bring in, and you got to keep it. Sometimes some money was passed under the table, which I'm proud to say that I've never had to do or never even attempted to do. I think any racer out there watching this podcast knows that. I can't tell you how many times I get guys asking me for free passes or tow money, whatever, because of who they are, and I turn them down. I treat every driver the same. I started at the bottom of this industry. I always was pretty much at the bottom of this industry. My whole racing career, I towed on an open. I try to treat every driver, whether they're running last in the B main or a capable feature winner, I treat them all the same. So I'm not paying anybody to come in and take my guys' money. I hope my fast regulars can win some of these Speed Week races. I know we will get some invaders. Speed Week has always been known for that. I don't think Burt Emick was paying any drivers to come in, and they would pull drivers from California, Pennsylvania, all over the place. So looking to make their own, but I'd like to bring some of the old school all-star flavor back into the mix.
Nice. Yeah. That's definitely good to go back to, what it was kind of founded on and bring that back. And I think a lot of series need to go back to that old school feel. Nowadays everything just seems too corporate, I guess, when it comes to, small, racing, short track racing. That's getting all too corporate. It's not NASCAR, it's not IndyCar. This isn't, it's dirt racing. It's supposed to be, grassroots, about the fans, about the drivers. You have these series, going to charters and stuff now, and it's why do we have to make it so corporate and complicated? Talking about charters, since we've asked
I was in
almost
Florida.
everybody that's been on here, what is your thought, or what are your thoughts on the charter systems?
Not a fan. If we're going to go to charters, and I've never been a fan of provisionals. I get asked about provisional starts. This is lucky dog rules and on putting cars back on the lead lap, and these things we've done, it's like we were following the NASCAR mold. And if you look at what NASCAR was in 1998 and look at what NASCAR is today, I think you'll see that in the long run, their path didn't work out so well. I am not a fan of those kind of things. And if we're going to start charters, I really think the term outlaw car racing. Because you're not a member. We have Master Boss. We charge $0 to join or to race with Boss or Fast. If you're going to be an outlaw, you should be able to come in and run. And I said, I'm not a fan of provisionals. You earn your way into the feature every night. I'm sorry if Steve Kinzer shows up and he runs 6th in the B main and we're taking 5. He's putting it on the trailer. I'll give him a nice handshake, thank him for coming. He didn't get a free pass either, by the way, not from my series anyway. But this is sprint car racing. And sometimes I think we're trying to take it and make it something it was never intended to be. I was in Florida for a World of Outlaw show, and I hadn't been to an outlaw in several years, and I walk up page and an end zone and this all fan experience. And I remember going to a NASCAR race in the 90s, and it gave me that feel. This really going to our path now. And fans can meet the drivers, stick around after the races. We need our drivers to stick around longer in the pit area and talk to race fans. That's tough. I get it. Drivers out there that are listening right now, I know what they're saying. Hey, I got to get home. I got to do maintenance. I'm running Port Royal tomorrow, whatever your plan is. I get it. But the longevity of our sport, the health of our sport depends on drivers. Even car owners can interact with race fans. Take that kid, let them sit in your race car. Be careful where they put their, on the fuel lines. I get it. I had that happen once. But it's important that we try to grow the sport through fan experiences, likes and, streaming and everything. That's another thing that I am kind of torn on, the streaming industry. I was told 6 or 7 years ago it would bring out the worst in people. And indeed it has, especially over the last year. But I wonder how much streaming, I'm seeing away from it now. So, we're kind of on the fence. We're on the cushion. Our speed week is split between Dirt Vision and Flow Racing. So I'm kind of intermixed with all of them. I appreciate everybody wanting to be a part of this, but there again, are we taking the sport down a path it was never intended to go? You can't enjoy a sprint car race the way you can in person by sitting at home on the couch. The sights, the sounds, the smells. I know that sounds funny. Alcohol burning sprint cars. You just get that. You don't get that anywhere else in the world. You get that this Saturday at Atomic Speedway. You'll get it next Saturday at Muskingum County Speedway. You can't get it sitting at home. So for people, if you want to grow the sport, bring your neighbors, do everything but kidnap somebody, I guess. Get them to a racetrack. And the most important thing when you bring a new fan to the racetrack, a reason to cheer for somebody. Introduce them to a driver. I went to some pavement races in Florida. I have a friend that gets drug along to a race for her first time at New Smyrna. There's 100 stock cars in 4 divisions. There's a blue number 7, a yellow number 40, a white number 16. I didn't know anybody. I kind of didn't care because I didn't know anybody. However, I go down the road for a big block model. I knew 3 drivers, but at least I had a reason to pull for those guys or cheer for them or whatever. So if you take a new race fan, don't expect them to sit there and watch what we watch and them automatically like it. Give them a reason. Take them down and introduce them to that guy who's 24 years old. His wife, they just had their first child. He works hard 60 hours a week and then comes home and works on a race car. Then let those new spectators watch that guy wheel that race car and they'll care. They might even want to go back next week. Sorry if I was
That's a good point too, because I think
No.
it's always about having that personal interest or investment into a car or somebody that really makes, that's the fans that are jumping up, yelling and screaming and waving their arms around, telling you to go. That's the good part, of the sport.
Yeah, Andrew says smelling that alcohol is the best thing in the world, along with hearing the motor rumble. And I have to agree. Even though I love the smell of Cam 2 from my asphalt days, I love the smell of alcohol. I raced alcohol go-karts, and I mean, just that smell. It's just,
It
to
is.
other
It is one
people,
of the best.
it's
Yeah,
weird, but it just smells so good.
either that or nitromethane.
Yeah, it's like going to the racetrack and you get the
It's
the
one of
racetrack
those
cologne.
things where
I know you were speaking of streaming services. Did anyone try and watch High Limit last night and it was completely unwatchable?
No, I didn't.
My flow was buffering every 15 seconds last night. I probably tried for half an hour restarting my TV, restarting my Roku, restarted the router, and yeah, that's
Well, yeah,
kind of the
NASCAR
danger.
mentioned it because they were racing at Texas on Saturday they were racing at Texas. And so
Yeah.
NASCAR was actually, posted something on their website and was talking about it. So more people were probably like, "Oh my gosh, I got to check out
Yeah.
this dirt racing that Kyle Larson's doing."
Yeah.
We have another comment. It's not a question, but from Jared. He says, "I think all of us fans, drivers, etc., owe Aaron a huge thank you for saving the tradition, and in my opinion, it's going to be better than ever in regards to Ohio Speed Week."
Jared, I really appreciate that. Not trying to do anything special. I mean, for me, it's a true love of the sport. Like I said, my plan was to grow up and be a race car driver. That didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. I did get a race for 19 years plus because as a kid, I didn't grow up wealthy. So to even get in a sprint car is kind of a dream. But to do it for 19 years was a lot of fun. And I hate being out of the seat. And now I'm not trying to do anything special, not trying to save anything. But I remember how great this sport was, and it still is. But I think there's some things sometimes before we take a step forward, we need to take a look back and remember what worked, what got us to where we're at, and just going hard into the future is not always a good flip. Actually, sometimes taking a backward glance is a good thing. And that's what we're doing. We're kind of not reinventing speak. We're just backing up a little bit with it to try to get it back to where the racetracks can make money. There may not have been a speed week at all, even if the All-Stars would have stayed in business. High Limit didn't buy them. It's 2024. About 4 of the racetracks that were part of last year's Speed Week had said they weren't doing it this year. They were tired of losing money. Speed Week was a major loss of money for 4 of the racetracks. Maybe 5. I don't know about the 5th one, but so had we not cut things back just a little bit, there probably wouldn't have been a Speed Week this year. Everybody wants a Friday or a Saturday. Worst case scenario, nobody wants to race Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I got to give a shout out. Wayne County Speedway, Monday night. Hilltop Speedway, Tuesday night. Sharon Speedway, Wednesday night. Thursday night, Muskingum County Speedway. Those 4 racetracks. I know it's easy to sit at home and watch your flow or your dirt vision, but those racetracks stepped up. They're taking a chance this year to help us keep this thing alive. Get out and support them. Come to the races that night. We're going to try to make it fun for everyone. And people say, hey, we want these purses higher. Maybe they will be. But right now, we got to prove that we'll support the industry.
And that's pretty cool. I guess, like you said, I've said before, I've said it a couple times, the tracks kind of track owners coming together with you to kind of making it work, is awesome to see. I haven't been a part of the big sprint car stuff, too long. But I do know that kind of working together and teamwork between promoters and track owners, and especially to put on a whole week, isn't usually there. So it's cool to see those tracks stepping up and doing whatever they can to work with you to try to make it as successful as it can be.
So Aaron, I gotta ask a
long
little
buffering spot there. I think we're good now. Got the tracks working together. I was glad to have them do that.
I gotta ask a selfish question for Chris and I here, because at least one of the tracks on the Speed Week schedule would not give us credentials, and I gotta wonder if two photographers that have a podcast could get some Speed Week credentials issued by the series running it.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Shoot me over an email sometime. Let me know what racetrack, and I can make that work for you. I believe, like I said, we keep our pass list very small. That's one thing promoters have really appreciated about what I've done now for seasons. This is our 14th year with my pass list, 12 people and under. Obviously, that had to grow a little bit for Speed Week this year, but other organizations would come in with a 200 or 300 person pass list. And I even catch grief sometimes for a 12-person pass list from some of the promoters. But it is mostly reporters, photographers, T-shirt trailer workers, things like that. Our merchandise game, we had to step up this year, obviously, with Speed Week. We've got our own Speed Week logo and merchandise coming out. But I usually have extra room for people, so you reach out to me on that.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So I think we have another one from Jared here. He's taking his entire vacation. He's taking his vacation the week of Speed Week and traveling to all the tracks. Now that's a true fan right there.
Several people plan to do the same thing. So
I know we kind of talked about Pennsboro a little bit, and it seems like a pretty sentimental place for you and one of your, memories. Is that your favorite track to go to, whether it's racing or putting on a race and watching the races? What's your favorite track? What's, when it's Monday night after racing somewhere and you're already looking forward to the next track, what's your favorite track to go to?
Well, I can give you two different answers on that one. The first one being convenience. A Talkway is less than 15 minutes from the house. So it's always fun there because it's a lot less stress on me. It's the travel, time. But as far as the racing goes, we ran our first fast events ever at Paragon, Indiana last year. And you talk about a cowboy up race was enough cushion. The drivers appreciated it, and it was just rough enough to make it exciting, but not so rough that the drivers complained really. But to get what happened, we have a restart. Darren Nida hauls down into 1 and 2, bicycles on the cushion, and crashes by himself. Second running Skylar G was right behind him, basically following the line, hit the same spot, bicycled, and also crashed. One crew goes after the other crew, a little bit of words exchanged saying they wrecked each other. I had a great view of it from the tower, race directing, and the drivers themselves, the crews were ready to fight. The drivers themselves admitted they never touched each other. They just, I think there was that synchronized swimming in the Olympics. If we had synchronized crashing, we'd have got a gold medal that night because there was no contact there. But Paragon was full fast. It rained a ton the night before as we raced. We had a 23 car field, good for wings in southern Indiana. I mean, that's a lot of people were afraid we weren't going to have a full field of cars, but we had 23. An off driver comes from deep in the field to run second. But we had a great show that night. Danny Sams won. It was a 2-day show. Danny Sams and Brandon Spithaler, I believe, were our two winners that night. But Paragon is a neat racetrack to watch sprint cars. Indiana, because of non-racing, they keep the tracks a little heavier. Montpelier, Indiana, unfortunately, we didn't get back on the schedule. The place, we don't think it's even opening this year. There was a little rift between the owner and the guy leasing the place. So right now, there's no schedule. Craig Kinzer win. Craig won with us in his home state. On until after 1 a.m. because of a rain delay. Again, the promoter, who was promoting the place last year, great job of sticking to his gun running, and again, bullet fast. So, we don't see that as much in Ohio. It seems like the tracks slick off more. It's a bad thing, but see a heavy racetrack. My goodness, seems like every time we go to Indiana, pack plenty of tear-offs.
Yeah, I've noticed that kind of about those tracks. It's catch-22, whatever way you look at it. The drivers, will bitch either way. It's too dusty or it's too heavy. But do you plan to go back out there a little more? I know the Maverick Series is kind of out that way. I haven't heard much more from them. Have you worked with them at all and maybe trying to get out there to Illinois, Indiana area, or are you just kind of good where you're at?
I got to give them a shout out because we had scheduled a race with the Paragon weekend, Circle City Friday night, Paragon Saturday night. They had a race scheduled the same weekend. Actually, the first night I think was Bloomington for them, Friday, and then that was in Illinois the second night. So we wouldn't have been too close to each other, but still it would have directly affected both of our car counts. I called them up, told them the situation, offered to co-sanction, with them for both events if they would move their event. They called back and they moved their weekend over Kings Royal. And I thanked them for offering to co-sanction with us. However, I'm in the state of Ohio. My Fast Series is anchored right here in the state of Ohio. I am not against the Kings Royal. That's just kind of the cardinal sin of the industry when you're in the sprint car world in Ohio. They're from the area. There's a lot of guys who don't want to run the Kings Royal. Some of my own drivers said, hey, we'd race that weekend. It's just not good business to go against the Kings Royal. So it's to go run, but it will not be co-sanctioned. But Jill Spiker, who is pretty much, I think, directing that and doing the scheduling with the Maverick Series, I appreciate her very much. They moved their off of our Paragon Circle City weekend. Last year, we had just enough cars to run a B and 7 at Circle City on Friday night. And then the Saturday was Montpelier the next day, and I think we had 24. I think we started everybody, too, because of the delay. We didn't want to run a B main. And then, so that's it. For Indiana, those are good car counts. We typically have over 30 when we're in a bit. Indiana's a little tough. But the guys over there now, even if the wingless guys want to bolt a wing on, most of them can't manufacture with no wings. These guys, there's such a contrast now. You back up just 20 years ago, here, Sheldon Hodenshield pulls the wings off, comes to wing camps. Sheldon, by the way, has 2 boss wins and 0 fast wins. You tell that to most race fans today, and they wouldn't believe that was even possible. But 20 years ago, a guy could pull the wings off of a wing car and go out and be competitive. Just like pavement racing. It's what ruined pavement racing. Why there's no USAC sprints on pavement anymore. They specialize the cars so much, you've got to have 2 competitions. You almost have to have a different pit mule cars now. And now we've done the non-wing. I was myself throughout most of my career, I'd run a wing on Friday night and pull the wings off and run non-wing on Saturday. And it's got to the point now you got to not just change the front axle, you're changing bird cages, and you're better off with a different chassis. The DRC seems to be the hot ticket in non-wing racing. And on the wing side, there's a plethora of cars that can be competitive, but very few guys are wanting to run those non-wing anymore.
Yeah, I've always wanted to try non-wing. I've always been worried about how I'd feel after, a toss like some of the guys go through. But the non-wing stuff is definitely very exciting to me. I love the racing of it. It's kind of more the backwoods original, how it started. So it is very interesting for me to watch. And then
Ricky Peterson is the only other driver that has won both wing and non-wing with me. Oh, sorry, Brandon Spithaler, of course. Spithaler, Ricky Peterson, and ironically, Kyle Larson are the only three that have both boss and fast wins. I would like to see more guys try doing both. I know Ricky Lewis is talking about putting a wing on some maybe this year if he gets the opportunity. I'd like to see more of the wing guys pull the wings off. Rusty McClure, who's a legend up in your area there, Daniel, he is great about taking guys under his wing, figuratively, but helping them out with setup in a non-wing car to be safe. Get that right rear out there just so a guy doesn't for his first few laps, and then you bring the car with the setup back to being faster once a guy gets his laps in. The most important thing is just tiptoeing your first laps without the wing until you get used to it, because it is a different feeling. You run the wing car and the car wants to lay back, and you drive into the corner and you can run in so hard. And a non-wing car, you run in 3/4 as hard as you do with a wing, but without the wing, the car has that tendency of tipping over. Even if you're not about to tip over, it has that feeling from the cockpit, and that takes a little getting used to for a lot of guys.
Yeah, coming from it, I can only imagine, the difference of the feel. It obviously seems like a lot of guys that come from non-wing to winged feel a lot comfortable in the cars, a lot quicker. But it's cool. It's cool to see the boss in the fast series. Like you said, it's usually, when it is a double show, it's sprint car heaven. You get the non-wing stuff, you get the wing stuff. Overall, it's a great combination, really. I think we'll probably, I know Kyle and Chris want to get into some NASCAR stuff, to at least speak on some things. What else do you want to throw out there, Aaron? What you got any sponsors with the series that's doing contingency stuff, or what do you want to say or shout out, to kind of wrap it up?
Well, one thing you find shows getting the best of both worlds with Boss and Fast. May 18th, Florence. We took the Boss series there last year for the first time ever. I was amazed at the crowd. I mean, absolutely packed house for Boss sprint cars, who was still running the series at the time. Just when I say rolled over, I mean, it was what they call a Tommy tip over back in the ESPN Thunder days. He got turned back over and finished the heat race. The crowd went crazy. They line at our souvenirs asking for Cody Gardner merchandise. That's the 9G back here behind me, by the way. But anyway, huge crowd, huge success. Now he's added the Fast series. So we're taking Fast and Boss together, Florence, Kentucky, May 18th. Also, Atomic Speedway, it has a combined show August, I believe it's the 17th, where we'll get both on the same night. So fans have an opportunity, like I said, to see the double dip. I hope we can do more of that in the future, because it has my name on it. This year, for the first time ever, we had 3 nights where Boss and Fast were going different directions. Some all retired from driving now for races, but the first week we rained out of that. So only But I got to say a big thing. That's all part of All-Star Performance and the guys at Motor State. That's our title for the 2 series. Got to give them a big shout.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome to kind of see what you've built and having all of the bigger sponsors and kind of people helping support you along the way. I know a lot of teams or series tend to fizzle out and die that way, so it's cool to see that you got a lot of people helping you to kind of push those things across. And I'm excited for the year and especially Speed Week out of the most. Hopefully I'll be out there with you more than just Speed Week, but I think general consensus is I think everyone appreciates what you've done. So it's pretty cool to see and be a part of. So I at least thank you. I know everybody else will.
I appreciate it. It's I'm like anybody. We're going to make mistakes sometimes, and it's not always going to be perfect. But one thing about it, nobody's going to give 100%. Give as much as what I do to try to make things right for the teams and the fans and for the race promoters, the track promoters. It's a tough job trying to keep everybody happy. I mean, in the business world, you try to keep your customers happy, but as a race series, we have 3 different types of customers: race tracks, race teams, and it's like walking a tightrope sometimes, trying to keep everybody happy. But I appreciate everybody that does support us, that has and will continue to. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think we appreciate you coming on, Aaron. I know last week was kind of a shit show, but we're glad you were able to come on today. Kind of put a face to the name of the series. Maybe some of the fans will come into the pits and bother you more than some of the racers. And Aaron's always good to talk to. You can always come up to him. He's always approachable, so he's a good dude to talk to. I know Kyle and Chris want to get into some stuff for NASCAR this upcoming week. Aaron, you're welcome to stay on if you'd like to listen or interject in any of it, or you're welcome to go, whatever works for you. It's been awesome having you on here.
When I heard NASCAR, I was thinking of the famous SpongeBob meme of I'm out.
That's funny. You got us there.
Yeah, awesome.
Sorry, I just gave up on NASCAR years ago.
Yeah,
that was good. Oh.
All right, guys. So we will.
All right, I'm gonna head out.
All right, see you later, Dan.
Dan's
yeah, he said, dude, that was funny.
Are you racing
Great.
Saturday?
Yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see how things go. I'll be there for sure.
Well, it's supposed to rain.
I know. That's
Friday,
why
so
I don't like thinking about it or talking
today.
about it. I mean, it's raining right now.
Are we ever going to get to race this month?
Hey, it's May.
If so, I'll see you Saturday.
Yeah, regardless, I'll be there. But yeah, the April stuff, the showers, the storms. It's
yeah, we better get some good May flowers if we're getting all these April showers, because I'm sick of it.
So what's up with NASCAR? What's up with NASCAR this weekend, or not NASCAR, IndyCar?
Well, we got Long Beach coming up, and finally after IndyCar's weird little forever long breaks that they do, it's like Outlaws and now high limits. It's like, all right, let's start the season. 6 weeks off.
Yeah.
So
it's annoying. I hate that they do their schedule like that. It doesn't make any sense to basically pause your entire thing.
It's not like it's like to help them recoup or to save money, or it's not like it's really, I don't know how beneficial.
Yeah, and then now we go into like a couple week. Well, we have We have 2 back-to-back shows, then we have a week off, and then we have Indianapolis road course, and then we wait until the end of May for the 500, and then we move into like 3 shows in a row, and then another week off or 2 weeks off, and then it's just a weird, all over the place schedule with IndyCar.
Yeah, I think if they did a little more like every other week or every 2 weeks, you'd have fans being able to follow it a little more. Maybe you'd have a little help there with the schedule.
So IndyCar has new vests. Some new vests. I saw them on
For literally
Yes.
only the 2 people who care.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Dan.
Media
Photo
vests.
Yeah. Neon
IndyCar
green?
has the best ones.
No, well, this one is not so great. It's so I'm going to show a picture, and this is how I found that they have new ones. So this is a photographer we follow.
Caitlin.
It's not Caitlin. Her name's not Caitlin.
Oh, yes. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know why we thought her name was Caitlin, but it's not Caitlin. But yeah, you see that this is a photo video blue vest, and it's not like the other ones. It's a tie one.
It's a smock.
Yeah, I really hope that for us, for red vests, they didn't go to smocks. I hope it's still the other ones because I love those vests. I hope they don't have some weird program now where if you want to do video, you have to have a photo video vest.
Yeah, I think you guys look good in some smocks.
No, you should see the NHRA ones.
You look like a hairdresser.
No, so what I think they are is caddy, like golf caddy smocks.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Maybe we'll actually remember this year. I don't know how two motherfuckers with cameras forget to take pictures
of us.
Yeah.
We don't want to look like goofballs taking selfies of each other, of us. Hey, look where we're at. Which, I mean, we should. It's good for the Instagram. I mean,
yeah, do it for the gram, dude.
Yeah, do it for the gram.
If that's what people are making fun of you from, that's the best scenario.
Yeah.
Well, people, you wouldn't believe the weird stuff that media gets. Stephanie Burkhart says, talk to Jason Flory, recommend smocks. No, I like my high vis vest.
I would say the best ones are the high vis, your guys' ones. Have your stuff on the back.
Yeah, I love those. It was were like $25 a piece to get those custom made.
We should get pink ones made.
No, do you know what? There's only one smock that I wish I would ever get the chance to wear. That's high vis, that's track issued, and I'm never gonna get to wear one because they're never gonna credential me, and I'm not gonna name their name, because maybe if I quit naming their name, they'll actually give me a credential someday. But getting denied another time for this very special track in central-ish Ohio that races dirt and a lot of really big shows.
It's more southern Ohio, but
southern-ish Ohio.
But yeah, I mean, IndyCar.
Wish I could view the royal engagement there.
IndyCar's back this week. NASCAR at Talladega, so that's going to be a disaster and a half.
Bama.
Hopefully, Wayne County on Saturday night.
Yeah, we just need to get. Hey, if anybody out there has a connection with like NORAD or some department of the government that controls the weather, can you let them know that Ohio would like to do some racing sometime this spring?
Turn the chemtrails off. I'm
I'll
tired of the
pay some
weather.
extra taxes. I don't care. I just want to see some racing.
I was gonna say, I mean, did you see Dubai when they seeded their clouds and buildings are flooding?
I could see that.
But yeah, I mean, Ben, last weekend, Chase Elliott broke his 42 race winless streak. Broke the Hooters winless streak. It had been like since Alan Kowicki, 92 or 93. Last time Hooters got a win in the Cup Series. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I had. I watched the Texas race. It was a mile and a half. It was a decent race, but nothing to write home about. Nothing to waste too much more time on the podcast. As you can tell.
We also have this weekend not just IndyCar in Long Beach. We have IMSA in Long Beach. So two of my favorite non.
Yeah, I would say IMSA is probably my favorite out of all those, just because the cars and drivers are so.
Hopefully we get to. Hopefully Mazdas are racing in Long Beach and pilot
MX5s like those ones.
Yeah, that's one of the best.
It is. I always watch them in Ohio. They do put on some good racing.
Do we get MX5?
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, we're gonna have MX5.
I think we do. I know. We have the premiere of the Mustang Dark Horse series. MX5 Cup.
All the racing coming out of Mid Ohio, minus the one accident that happened. It almost seems like Mid Ohio really needs to do something about China Beach.
We do have MX5 Cup.
Oh, that's good. That makes me happy. That's gonna be a good weekend. It's gonna be a really good weekend. I just can't wait to get to Mid Ohio.
If you take your trailer that week and take all my camping stuff, I'll drive my MX5 down.
Ooh.
Just kidding. It won't leave the garage probably this summer. Should have never made it a show car. But yeah, I think that's all I have.
Yeah, you could take if for IndyCar weekend, if they do
I can take my Honda Civic.
Yeah, you can take your daily driver and just park it in the
car corral,
in the show area. Yeah, the car corral.
I have a nice Honda Civic too. I have a 96 Civic that sits in the driveway.
Clean.
Yeah,
I can probably shove
over and I can
probably shove your hybrid on my trailer that I used to haul my side by side. It'd probably fit.
The Miata probably definitely would. But
every time I ride with you, I feel like I'm climbing out of a clown car.
Hey, when we get 42 miles to the gallon out to whatever that place is called, Sharon, I don't want to hear it.
That one place. I don't know what it's called. They're making me nervous. I haven't received any letters from them yet.
I'm just gonna have to pony up $40 to go to events.
Making me nervous.
They heard about you talking about their Surface and they're pissed. So you're not getting anything.
Dave Blaney himself heard it.
I'm sorry that it rubbers up. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't rubber it up. It's just their clay.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I got this week. You got anything? I mean, it's looking to be.
Try to get Aaron again, obviously, in a couple months. Get the season started and start trailing some other guys, and hope we get good weather to race this weekend.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be able to send Chris to a good portion of Speed Week races.
I just have to talk to my boss.
No, you're going to tell him.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say with the amount of 18-hour days, because I think Friday I'm working 18 hours. I worked 18 hours last Friday, having to cover for other guys. I mean, they might just have to cover for me.
Like,
I mean, he's the one.
Served it by now.
He's the one on vacation that week, so I mean, won't hurt him at all.
How busy are you guys in June?
Not really. It's just that's like the second week school's out, or third week, something like that. I don't know, but yeah, I'll try and talk. Remind me tomorrow, Kyle, and I'll try and talk to him.
All right, I will. I will do that.
But
All right,
yeah.
but as we were just doing housekeeping here on the podcast, I think we'll go ahead and end it there. I didn't mention it at the beginning of the podcast, but a big thank you to our show sponsor, Apex Designs. Hopefully, we're going to have some decals coming up soon, and maybe some merch.
And if you see me, I don't know if you're going on Saturday, Kyle. If we do race Saturday, I do have a bunch of little stickers I need to give out. So
yeah, so
I got little ones for guys.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have some both Ohio Motorsport and from the infield FTI stickers coming in the near future. If you ever see us out at the track, I think those ones we might be selling just to try to bring in some income here for the show for the three of us here. Obviously, we do this out of passion for racing and not to make money. I don't think anybody enters any of this to make money. But
any part of racing.
No, unless you work for like a big team or a series. But we obviously love motorsport. But yeah,
and we don't know about it, but we're going to do some sort of contest about something. No details.
Yeah,
we don't know the details, but something.
You see how hungry this one is?
He's trying to eat the microphone.
But yeah, I'll see you guys next week, or hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, see you guys next week. Same time, same place.